Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world. This is Q&A number 8 for the Winter Copywriting Mentorship Program. We're already at week 8. How crazy is that? It's been a long time. Let's see. We got Brian Mead, Brittany Johnson, Edie, Laura, Mike, Miri. Awesome. Cool. So we got a pretty good crowd here. Let's see. All right. Same thing as usual. How's my sound? You guys shouldn't see a screen yet. If we have to bring that up, we will during the Q&A. It's just easier to keep it just sound until then. And yeah, I'm looking at the Facebook thread, and I didn't see any questions immediately pop up underneath this Q&A. So if you have any questions, post them in the question box. Given how many people we have on live, we could probably take some live calls if you wanted to chat about something, and that would be awesome if you want to do that. Or we could simply just, hang out and shoot the shit and talk about whatever for a few minutes, and then if nobody has any questions, then everybody can get on with their day. We'll see how it goes. All right. Okay, John Patrick Roddy has a question. You on here live, man? Let's see. Can't see if you're on live. Sweet. Well, I'll ask this one first, and then I'll ask Debbie, or answer Debbie's. So let's see. John asks, when using an authority figure in your copy, for example, a doctor or someone like that, what are the guidelines and legal issues around credibility in the copy? Plus, is the copywriter liable around any issues and how the client uses the copy for the final sales page? Okay, so I'm going to preface this question with the fact that I am not a lawyer. Okay, I will never give you legal advice. I will never construe myself to be giving legal advice, anything like that. All right, it's on record. It's being recorded. I'm not a lawyer, so everything I say is simply my opinion on the issue from a non-legal standpoint. Okay, now everybody understands that. Using an authority figure in your copy, I think the major thing where people run into issues is when they're out and out lying about something with the product. So for example, if you have a doctor talking about the product, and then that doctor, in his white lab coat, or, from the voice of that particular doctor, says the FDA approves this, when that is not actually a fact, or when they say that this is recommended by 9 out of 10 doctors without having any sort of proof for that, that's when you get into trouble. It's the direct lies that can get you in trouble with the FTC or any of that kind of stuff. If you are simply trying to passively have the reader perceive some sort of authority, then if your persona that you're writing from is a doctor, then it's kind of up to your ethical compass at that point, because I don't believe it's legally wrong to put the quote-unquote, Dr. Joe Smith as writing the letter. With that said, though, the ethical compass is if you don't actually have a doctor who is either the product owner, the product spokesperson, supporting the product, anything like that, then you are lying to the customer. So, because there is no doctor involved other than the one that you invented for this particular thing. Now, that kind of goes back to the storytelling module, where if you have to invent a character to tell this story, then the ethical quandary of should that character be an authority figure, should that character be just an average Joe, is kind of on you. You're going to notice that one of the videos I did a long time ago, back in September on live, I only remember this because somebody went back and liked it from that long ago recently, was that you kind of get to decide if you're a Jedi or a Sith, right? The Force is the Force. The copy is the copy. The art of persuasion is the art of persuasion. Now you get to decide if you're going to use it for good, which means you're going to, not make those types of leaps that you can make technically or legally, or even like gray legally, or if you're going to use the type of authority figure or type of figure that makes more sense ethically. And that's kind of on you. So aside from going to talk to a lawyer and seeing exactly what you can say in your industry, because there are differences, like financial industry is very strict on certain things. The health industry is very strict, especially around supplements. Information, not so much, but you know, it's getting to that point. Facebook and Google both have their own like rules and ideas around it. So you got to make sure you understand where you're operating and how you're operating. But then it becomes an ethical question. Do you want to be the person who uses a doctor when there really isn't any doctor support? Is anybody having audio issues, intermittent audio issues? Okay, yeah, Edie, it's just you. Everybody else is good. Okay, so that answers that. John, are you on right now? Doesn't. Oh, yeah, you are. Does that answer your first question? John, let me know if that answers your first question. I'm going to move on to your second question. Oh, I'm sorry. The second part of your first question is the copywriter liable around any issues? Again, not a lawyer, but the answer 99% of the time is no. But you are obviously not legally going to get slapped for something that your client does. However, it gets really murky if you say something like, hey, yeah, this is fine, this is going to work just great, just run it. You know, you're coercing them into running a sort of piece of copy, and the onus is still on them, and it gets very gray, and you don't want to be that copywriter. So don't even play in that area. You know, if you have any sort of issues, run it by a legal team or run it by a lawyer who's familiar with that industry, because they're going to red letter all that over that thing. But at least you'll know what you can and can't say and what's borderline. So regarding Module 8 and positioning, let's see. You've been coaching in personal development, health and wellness for 20 years, private practice. Current practice is moving into high-ticket coaching and consulting rather than focusing on a niche as a copywriter. I was thinking about positioning myself as a consultant, which can address these areas in your business, copywriting simply being one piece. This would be a good direction to move towards, so if one does need to niche down, this type of consulting services. So I'm not quite sure what your second question is, John. Are you asking to whether or not you should add copywriting as a service to your existing coaching business? Or are you asking about if you're going to niche as a copywriter, you should focus on coaches? I'm not sure what the question is. Number 3, can you share your thought process on the positioning you're using with what we've been taught in your new high ticket offer? Let's see. Let's see. My thought process on the positioning you're using with what we've been taught in your high ticket offer and your communication to the marketplace on Facebook and studying your posts and enjoying them. Okay, so yeah, some of the basically, you know, why are you doing what you're doing, Lucas, when you're marketing other things like an event or something like that? Yeah, sure. So number one, I have a pretty good understanding of my Facebook audience. So I have over 2,000 friends on Facebook, and I've specifically cultivated that list to be a certain type of person on purpose. Now, those types of people are coaches, experts, consultants, authors, business owners, e-commerce people, marketers, copywriters, things like that. I don't have a lot of actual real friends on Facebook because I view Facebook more as a business tool than a true place to, I guess, be a human being. I prefer my interpersonal interaction to be face-to-face and with friends and going out and doing fun stuff rather than doing it on social media. So my Facebook is more of a tool for my business. So that's the first thing that you should probably understand about how I use Facebook. The second thing is that I treat my audience on Facebook as a level 1 aware audience, and now I simply have to map whatever I'm writing to the sophistication of whatever that topic is. So my level 1 audience is aware of me. They trust me. They're friends with me. They like me. They look at my stuff. They read my, they read my posts. They watch my videos. all that kind of stuff. They are a level 1 aware audience. Now, when I'm writing to them, if I'm writing about copywriting, then I'm going to write to whatever the sophistication level of most copywriting training is for that demographic. For marketers, usually they're more sophisticated than, say, a coach, because a coach hasn't necessarily discovered direct response copywriting unless they've been in the game for a while. So I have to, I have to go somewhere in the middle, which is I'm going to assume you know certain things, but I'm also going to explain them in a way that if you don't, you can go find out what I'm talking about very easily, or become intrigued with it anyway. But it still captures the people who are slightly more sophisticated. That's a balancing act, and I perfected it because I've made a lot of posts on my social media on Facebook, and it's something where I notice what people respond to versus what they don't respond to, images, videos, all that kind of stuff. So when I'm making that offer, I really tailor the message to the type of sophistication I'm running for the market and the offer that I'm making. And that's kind of my thought process on positioning. It's also, there's a lot of intangible positioning going on in Facebook as well. Facebook is very visual. Facebook is very update focused, notifications, live videos, tags, comments, visual video type stuff. So Facebook is an environment where people don't necessarily search you, but they find you through various mechanisms. Whether that's an update in their newsfeed because they prioritized you to see you first, whether that's a notification that you've gone live or that a friend of yours is going live or something like that, they're getting interrupted, but by someone whom they've already given permission to interrupt them, essentially, which is being a friend. That's my thought process. That's what I'm going for with Facebook, and that's why I use Facebook for those types of things. And the intangible positioning is profile pictures, cover photos, the images you use on Facebook, how you present yourself on Facebook Live, how you communicate in your posts, the types of posts you do share and don't share. You'll notice that on my timeline, I'm not political. I have a degree in political science. I'm a military officer. I have traveled all over the world, and I debated in high school at the national level. I won national competitions for Constitution type stuff. So I'm very political as a person. However, you won't see any political posts on my Facebook page. And there's a specific reason for that, because I do not want that type of interaction on my page, and that will affect either positively or negatively my positioning. So does all of that help and make sense for your third question? Okay, sweet. Was that valuable for everyone else, or was that just John? I kind of went off on a tangent there. Also, I never got the clarification on your second question, so if you could write that in, please. All right, let's see. Debbie, I'm going to move on to Debbie's question. Debbie says, I had a pretty big name internet marketer say to me that the other day, Deb, how many happy copywriters do you know? Most of them stop writing copy. When I thought about it, I realized he's right. Many of them stop writing copy. I would love to know what you do to stay happy as a copywriter, so I not only get to be top-notch, but also don't run into burnout. And why do you think so many stop writing copy? What's your wisdom on this? So here is my, I'd be curious to hear who you were talking to. If you don't want to share their name, I understand, but if you want to share it in the chat, okay, thank you. I'm not going to bring his name up, but now I know exactly who you're talking about. So here's the thing. He's probably referring to freelance copywriters, in which case it's not necessarily the copywriting, it's the clients. The copywriting is for most people, if you're passionate about a project, then you can write copy for days on that project. You can research it for days. But if you're a freelancer, you don't necessarily get the benefit of working in the niches that you truly enjoy, and you're always working with other clients with some sort of deadline or some sort of expectation. That's where the burnout comes from. Not necessarily the copywriting itself. So in regards to the first person that you listed, I know exactly why he stopped writing, and it was because he never wanted to write in the first place, and he found someone who did it better than him, who he could pay less than what he made. In regards to the second person, I don't know his story specifically, but the story goes basically that he started getting more pleasure from working with other copywriters and training them and kind of doing that than he did from working with clients. It's very individualistic. But it's usually client focused, not copywriting focused, because you'll notice that a lot of copywriters continue to write copy either for their own brand, for their own products, for their blogs, things like that, or you know, like Chris Haddad, who doesn't write freelance, writes all the copy for his brands, and you know that's because he loves doing it. So it's not a copywriting thing; it's usually a client thing, and you can fix the client thing by not working with people who piss you off or are, you know, shitty clients. By doing that, you can do that in several ways. First off, being selective. The more selective you can be, the better. Second off, having a niche that you actually enjoy. That's why Module 8 is really important, because if you go into a niche that you truly enjoy working with, then you're not going to burn out with the clients as fast because you're interested in the projects. You know, I don't ever want to do a big omnibus like, you know, here, I'll write your VSL for any topic type thing again, because I was forced to write VSLs for things like STD testing, or, you know, things that I have absolutely zero interest or, you know, some sort of, and in some ways, some sort of like moral repulsion towards. I don't want to do that anymore. So I get to choose my clients, I get to be selective, and I get to, you know, work within the niches that I want to, because I've, you know, afforded myself that capability. However, the way to avoid that burnout is to work with clients, not necessarily, or to work with clients you want to, not necessarily because copywriting itself burns you out. Does that make sense? I would be very, I would be, you know, I don't think copywriters ever stop writing copy, because we got into copywriting because we love it, and we're like entranced by it. But the reasons you write copy definitely change. Okay, Mike Renard says, would you recommend testing a direct mail piece online first? For example, put a sales letter online, run Facebook traffic to it, and test messaging and response, and then send his direct mail piece. You know, I've never done it before, and I can see some pros and some cons, so let's talk about those. The pros are that you don't have to spend money on an expensive mailing to get your result, or to get some sort of information or data. You also get to test quicker. Speed is a big thing. With direct mail, you don't necessarily get as much speed, and on top of that, you don't get to track down to the granular detail what the response rate is. You don't actually like get to see, okay, of the 1,000 people you sent the letter to, 900 of them threw it in the trash. You don't get to know that. All you get to know is of the 1,000, you got 5 phone calls, and that's it. So there's more data tracking online. Those are the pros. The cons are that they're completely different mediums. So much so that I would say they're almost non-related, because a person who is on their computer, on their phone, on Facebook is in a distractible online media consumption type mindset. And the person who who gets a piece of direct mail and then reads it is in a sorting, analytical, like time-focused, you know, type mindset, where they're standing at their, you know, at their post office box or at their mailbox, and looking at all of the shit that they got, and then deciding which one of it am I going to dump in the trash, and which one of it am I going to bring into the house and read. So, and for what reasons. So I think they're very, very different. Now, what I would do is do a little bit of a hybrid. Maybe target your exact target market, like down to either the zip code or the specific list. Maybe if you can even get the list that you're going to direct mail to and upload it to Facebook as a custom audience, that would be a great way to test. And then test things like headlines or topics or content or big ideas, things like that. So now you've got a general gist of what they do enjoy and what they do click on, and then you can craft your direct mail piece around that. That way you don't have to waste money testing the different things down direct mail, but you also don't like imply that just because the Facebook ad worked, the direct mail piece is going to work automatically. Does that make sense, Mike? That's what I would do. It's a creative idea, but I think there's pros and cons. Let me know if that makes sense. Cool. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of direct mail in the modern age. I think that it's massively underutilized right now because it is expensive. But if you do use it, you gotta, just because it's underutilized doesn't mean that you can't fuck it up. Like there's a lot of ways you can mess up a direct mail campaign, and so I think that it's very important that you follow the same principles of good direct mail, like Gary Halbert, like read a lot of Gary Halbert, and then some Mike Polish, Dean Jackson, some of their old stuff is really good, like Grabbers and Lumpy Mail and that kind of thing. So they've got some good stuff going on. Perry Marshall does a little bit of postcard direct mail, from what I understand. And I think that the focus should be on doing it right, but understanding that it's a pretty open medium to try. Resources, I just gave them to you, Mike. Those people. I think Edie just put it down. Yeah, we're good. All right, so Miri has some questions. Yeah, another one. Sorry, I completely forgot him. Doberman Dan. Dan Galeppo? I can't remember how to spell it. Doberman Dan, just Google it. He's also very good at direct mail. Dan Kennedy has some good stuff on direct mail as well. So let's see. Number one, Miri says, if you already have a business and you want to expand, and I think you spelled it right, Edie, thank you, and you want to expand and have copywriting jobs, how do you suggest to make that transition or potentially do copywriting on the side? Questions related to Module 8, how you establish yourself as a copywriter. I understand process 1 or process 2, but this is when you already have a business or a full-time job. What's the best way to present yourself? Through a website, through a PDF document with examples, and what's worked well for you in the past? Okay, so do you have a business or do you have a full-time job? Those are two separate things. Like, if you have a business and you are the face of your business, then it really depends on how related copywriting is to that business. Like if you sell supplements, like green coffee bean extract, then becoming a copywriter on the side doesn't really make sense. None of your clients who are buying green coffee bean stuff are concerned about copywriting. If you run a marketing agency, or if you do websites, or if you do design work or something like that, where you're in a service-oriented B2B slot, then offering copywriting does make sense. Now, with that said, there's all the jumps, right? If they view you as a web person, then it's harder to transition to a copywriter and all that kind of stuff. Let's see, Brittany, I'll answer your question in a second. So that's the question, like business-wise, what type of business is it? How close is it to copywriting? And can you feasibly add copywriting on the side of it? That's the real question. The second thing is a full-time job. Now, that's a different question. Your full-time job obviously takes up your, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. type time slot. And that means that there are a few things here. If you do stuff on the side or afterward or moonlighting, does that conflict with your job in the way that would get you fired? If it does, then you have to be very secretive, or you have to use a pen name, or you have to use something where your boss will never see it. If it doesn't, then you could be a little bit more open about it, where you start marketing yourself on social media, you start creating your persona on LinkedIn and things like that, where you work full-time here but also do copywriting on the side, that type of thing, as long as it's non-competitive to your original business. That's the question that you have to answer for yourself. Once you've gotten those questions answered, then you can decide, okay, how do I want to be perceived as a copywriter, process 1 or process 2? My recommendation, if you're just starting out, is to go with the niche specific. Like, go into a niche. It's the most powerful thing you can do immediately as a new copywriter, because saying you're a copywriter puts you in the realm of all 100,000 other people that are on Upwork and Freelancer and everywhere else who say that they're copywriters, right? You've now put yourself in that slot. But saying you are a specific niche, specific type of copywriter immediately tosses out 99% of your competition, because now you are specialized, and you're also smart enough and savvy enough to specialize. So that means that you're obviously good enough to understand what you're talking about. It's a psychological thing in the client's mind where they say, if you say you're the VSL copywriter for ClickBank health products, then they're going to go, oh crap, this guy knows what's up. And now that you've claimed that title, you now have a much better time focusing on the stuff that makes you a really good copywriter in that niche. Because now that you are the VSL copywriter for ClickBank health products, then you can go on to ClickBank and literally research every single health VSL that has ever been successful in ClickBank. And you will have more knowledge than anyone in your marketplace around that specific topic. And now the 1,000 or so health publishers who sometimes publish on ClickBank or don't, or have a knowledge of ClickBank, are going, you're the only person that I want to hire for this job. That's the power of niching down, and you don't really have to have anything else like clout or a fancy website or whatever. I think I answered both your questions at once with the website PDF documents and stuff like that. I have always done social media. So my Facebook page has been my primary source of revenue for the last 3 years. I'm sorry, not my page. My personal profile has been my primary source of revenue for 3 years, followed very closely by live events and seminars and masterminds. So I pay good money to go into a room with people who also paid good money and then tell them I'm a copywriter. That has resulted in easily a 10x return on my money for all those masterminds. So either social media or masterminds or both, that's what I've done in my career. There are other options, like Module 9 that you guys are going to be getting next week is going to show you several other options beyond the social media event type thing that I did that I think are beneficial. However, they're very specific and they're tactical based, which means that they may or may not work in 3 to 6 months, which means you have to use them now and you have to get it up quick rather than sitting on it and waiting on it. No problem, Miri. So Brittany Johnson asked, do you have any recommendations for who to swipe for email campaigns? I think it depends on what type of email campaigns. Let's see, for like a daily type email, Ben Settle is probably the gold standard on that. I think Ryan Lee also has a great daily email. There are several other marketers. I would focus on your niche more so than the copywriters themselves, because each niche has its own voice, its own style. So rather than just going email campaigns, go for your niche. Go find the people who are emailing every day or every few days for daily email campaigns. For autoresponder series, I love Andre Chaperon. He's excellent. All of his training and some of his products are very good. Anybody trained by Andre who's doing it right will have great autoresponders. But those are for, just kind of like meta swipe. They're not specific to your industry unless you can find one for that. And I think niche is more important than email specifically, but if you're going for email experts, then it's, to my knowledge, Ben Settle, Dan Henderson, they call him Big Dan. Yeah, Dan Henderson, I think. He's super tall. I think it's Dan. And Andre Chaperon, and oh crap, there's one more and I forgot his name. If I remember it, I'll write it down. Perry Marshall, Jason Henderson, sorry, Jason Henderson. Daniel Levis, yeah, Daniel Levis, he's the guy. And there, Levi Johnson? Levi Johnson is another email guy. I don't do a lot of emails anymore, so I'm not really familiar with it. Specifically after an opt-in, like what is a format you use, like you mentioned in the storytelling module that we can use as a guide. I have an idea of emails that I would like to send to people after they opt into a funnel, and I would love to be more specific, but I have different funnels. Again, it all depends. You'd have to give me very specific information. You know what? We got time. You want to come on live? Do you have a microphone? Let's do that. All right, you're live. Should be anyway.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I suppose for one of them is more like detoxification, like health focused, so a membership site.
Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
so would you be trying to sell the membership site, or are you trying to like keep people into it?
Yeah, I would be I think I know what I'd be sending them after they're in the membership, but yeah, to enroll them in the membership after they've opted in, for
Okay.
like a little free guide.
For like the freebie or the guide. Okay, so what I would do is, and you're obviously in front of a computer right now,
Yeah.
so I would go find, in fact, I might be able to just share this as a PDF, but I don't know if I could do it right. But it's Melanie Saladino. Do you know who that is?
No.
Melody Saladino has a really good report called The Nine Hidden Questions. And it's an excellent report on many levels, but what you really want to go find is chapter 9, which is the 9 hidden questions. Those are basically the 9 biggest objections. And so if somebody opts in, and obviously right after they opt in, they probably see an upsell page with the offer for the membership site, right?
Hmm.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then they start getting emails if they don't respond to that. It's usually because they either don't understand it or they have objections, and that's my experience. So if you can handle those objections via a story or via a testimonial or something like that, then a really good post opt-in, post sales letter progression for non-buyers would be to answer every objection in turn and kind of tease out that there's other stories coming up in case they don't see their immediate question, then they know that it's going to get answered eventually. They should keep paying attention. And so that's going to be powerful. But I think I've never actually uploaded anything on here before. So I don't know if I can drag a job. Let's do this. And this is relevant for everybody else as well because I use this in my copy. And this is not my report, though. I want to preface that with this. This is not my report, not my IP. This is someone else's that I use. So it's going to upload real quick, and then you guys will have access to it. But the chapter 9 for you, Brittany, is going to be very relevant, the hidden questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. I think that's the best bet for a membership site, especially for like health detox.
Yeah.
Women more so than men tend to ask lots and lots of questions just as a general rule. And you'll read in that report, it tells you kind of why. There's like a safety / excitement spectrum that everybody falls on. And I think that report's going to help a lot.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for the question.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, Edie, I'll repeat the name. Melanie Saladino, spelled phonetically, so Saladino. That's also her website, Melanie Saladino, and you'll find it if you look up the 9 hidden questions or Melanie Saladino or something like that. I also uploaded the PDF just now to the handout, so everybody should grab that immediately, and I'll upload it to the Facebook group right after this so that everybody has access to it. Once again, not my IP at all. And so I don't want anybody to think that I wrote this or that this is mine. This is just a report that I found that is really good, and I give all credit to Melanie for writing it. All right, all right, all right. So let me see here. Exit out of that real quick. Let's see. And there was another question, then I'll get down to Scott's. Okay, so Brian just asked a real quick question. For me, what's more fun, writing for clients or product and course creation? I'm going to be honest, usually product and course creation because clients, I mean, Gary Halbert said this, clients suck and can suck. I mean, some of my clients are great. I love working with them and I'll work with them any time. Other times, you know, they're okay. We work together. We have a working relationship. It's fine. It's professional, but it's not something I necessarily look forward to. You know, it's just kind of like part of the job. There are other clients who suck, and I don't work with them anymore, but I used to, and it just sucks. Now, when you write for your own products or your own courses, you're invested in them, but there's a flip side. Sometimes you get too close, and you don't give that product or course the same objective viewpoint that you would a client. So I think that it's good for, especially for a copywriter, to balance both. That's why I'm never going to stop writing copy for clients, because I believe that you have to keep your axe sharp, and writing for clients does that. All right, Scott McDougall's question. So Scott says, how might you create two personal brands simultaneously? I know, don't, lol, but if you were going to, maybe two different names, etc., guessing you treat each one the same. Just keep them separate. Easier said than done, because you can't self-promote both or include pictures of yourself without risking finding out. So let's see. I'll answer the first question first. All right, so my actual answer, yes, you already know, Scott, is don't do two personal brands at once. That's the answer. Now, if we're just getting into speculative land, then the best way to do it would be to invest in a brand building team for each one and keep yourself as the manager for both, and have them both be pen names and manufactured identities. And the best way to do that is to go onto Fiverr and get somebody to draw you in two different ways. So now you have a cartoon avatar, and they don't look the same, and they're completely separate from one another, especially if they're in different industries. Now you've got a cartoon avatar that sort of looks like a person with a pen name, and you can start building that persona using the team that is publishing content and creating, you know, the personality around the brand, while you simultaneously make the products and the advertising. That means two businesses, like you're creating two businesses at the same time. I will say, though, that Richard Branson, the guy who started and run and built over 400 businesses, the billionaire, says you can be a serial entrepreneur, but don't be a simultaneous entrepreneur. Like, do one thing at a time. That's the guy who started 400 businesses, right? Don't do two things at once. You can only focus on one. So I need to emphasize that. If you want to create two businesses at once, be prepared to invest in both of them and treat them both like businesses, not like yourself, right? Treat them like an actual entity. Let's see. Yeah, kind of like oh crap, I forgot his name. Dexter something. He's a note-taking nerd. All right, and number two, the questions like beirresistible.com or girlgetsring.com, what do they do behind the scenes that no one sees? Mostly article writing with SEO and paid traffic. Seems simple, but getting the feeling there's a lot more going on. To be perfectly honest, Scott, I don't know. I don't work in those industries. I don't work in the dating industry. I don't work in the pickup industry. So I have a very, very limited understanding of that industry. And I'll never claim to be, you know, and I don't think those links that you put in are relevant. Maybe there's like a misspelling or something, because I'm looking it up right now. But yeah, I have no idea. This is not an industry that I play in, so I wouldn't know. I'm assuming that, you know, there's a certain amount of standard practice. There's also a lot of workarounds, because a lot of ad networks don't allow dating or have, you know, heavy restrictions on dating and pickup and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, by understanding that landscape, I'm sure they've had to do a lot of workarounds, and there's a lot of owned media like emails, solos, you know, things like that. But again, I'm just speculating because I don't work in that industry. One guy I know who does work in that industry, but he's trying to get away from it. His name is Ron Reich. Worked with him at Ryan Levesque's company. Both, I think, you know, he'd be available to chat if you can get a hold of him, maybe if you pay him a little bit. I know he had quite a bit of success in there. Also, Chris Haddad's a good person to study, but I don't personally have the right experience to answer that question. Abraham, Dexter Abraham, thank you. Yeah, he is. He's in productivity now. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you for finding that link, Edie. I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh and see what other types of questions we have pop up. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Anybody got any? I answered Michael's. Let's see. Okay, Michael asked a question yesterday. I think I already responded to that, but it doesn't show my comment for some reason. Any other questions from the people on the call or on the thread or anything like that? Because I don't see anything, and if that's the case, we'll end it now. And no questions from Laura. No questions from, I guess, Mike. You already asked yours. So nothing. Let me know. Otherwise, we're just chilling. Let's see. Mike Renard asks, is there anything you specifically recommend for interviewing clients over the phone to really get core issues, emotions, all that kind of stuff? Yeah, so when I interview clients over the phone, as far as, I guess I'm a little confused. Are you talking about like before they pay, or the fact that they're already clients and I'm interviewing them for the sales copy? Customers. Okay, yeah. So I'm a real big fan of the whys, the four whys. Like, why is that important to you? Why is that important to you? And digging deep down into the criteria that really drives their decision. I think that's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. Like, if you can ask one question and then say, why is that important to you 4 times, then that's a 5-minute conversation that's really, really valuable. Now, other questions, like for digging into emotions or issues and things like that, you can ask pain points that you're kind of already aware of, like, hey man, how's your health going? Or how's your how's your weight loss journey going? How's your how's work going? Or how's your business going? Things like that. And then dig. Like, don't let them say, oh yeah, it's great. No, dig. Like, oh seriously, oh great. What's great about it? Are you working on anything new? And then like dig. The point isn't necessarily to ask the right question, it's to dig and get the real answer. Because a lot of people like to give service level answers to all those types of questions. As far as specific questions to get people to open up, let's see. You can always commiserate. You can always say something like, hey, I hear the industry is really hard right now. Or I hear, like, there's a lot of layoffs happening at this company, or there's a lot of turmoil because of the stock market and that kind of stuff. And as long as you start commiserating, then they'll be like, oh, okay, the insider, and I'm going to talk to them about it. Those are some other options. Does that help? I usually like to play it by ear. Okay, good. let's see. Any hacks for speeding up research? Yes. So first off, having a system of research, right? Having a set list of tasks that you need to do is going to speed up research quite a bit. Second, having a place to dump all your research that's familiar to you is also good. I use a notepad, so I can't show you anything, but because I'm analog and I like to write things down. But the Evernote, text editor, Word documents, Google Docs, analog, audio recording, whatever, like something for you to capture the majority of your research as long as you're following your system from number one. That's going to speed things up. And like I said, and I've answered this question a few times now, the system you should follow is working down the big four. So start with your target market, psychographic demographics, go down to their core needs, primal fears, primal desires, and then go down to awareness, and then go down to sophistication in that order, and you can just line it out like that. That's the easiest way to do it. And then start categorizing things in however you capture notes for which one is which. You might, as you go down, find out new things about stuff you've already quote unquote finished. That's good. That's a good thing. The second thing is that if you're researching your product additionally, then you're going to want to use kind of like the Eugene Schwartz method for going through the product, especially if it's an info product, which is first pass, broad overview, write down the things that jump out to you, highlight things, underline things, but go through it very quickly, right? Then either do this yourself or get an assistant to do this, to go through what you just underlined and highlighted and create a document of just that stuff, right? Now that document is going to be what you're going to look at next, where you're going to look through and see, okay, I underlined and highlighted all of this stuff, what stands out to me there, right? And then once you've done that analysis, then go back to the main product and read through it again, where you're like, oh, okay, this is kind of what I understand of this now. This is where, I get where the product's coming from, what some of the big points are. Once you've gotten all of that compiled, you're going to have a ton of information, and then you can go into the copywriting process after you've done your market research. That's the easiest way. Speeding things up for your target market, audience insights. Actually, one thing that I've seen Miri using that I've never used before is a site called Follower Wonk. It looks like it's a Moz tool, Moz.com, that allows you to research followers and look at types of analysis for followers. It looks like you might have to buy it. I don't know if there's a free version, but that might be helpful. I've never used it before, but Miri can tell you about it if she wants to. There's, let's see, BuzzSumo is a great resource to find relevant content and influencers and people like that, so you can do more research. BuzzSumo is an option. Let's see, target market type stuff. You can always look up, Google Scholar for demographic information, economic information, things like that. Any sort of data aggregator that allows you to read the abstract or to do all that kind of stuff. I think those are going to be powerful. And the okay, it's free to analyze accounts that have under 50,000 followers. That's legit. And that's how I would do it. So go target market, core needs, awareness and sophistication in that order, line it out, make sure everything's got a system to it. Usually systems are how you speed things up. Now, and I'm going to use a quote from a Navy SEAL here because, I admire those guys. And this is actually something that all the military says if they're smart about it. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Okay? Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So if you want to speed up your research, then make it smoother. Systems help you do things smoother versus disjointed, right? And also execute that system slowly so that you don't mess up, right? Mistakes, go-arounds, loop-backs, all that kind of stuff is what slows down the market research period and makes your thoughts all jumbled. So systems and the speed at which you actually do the research is going to help you speed up the entire process. Does that help? It make sense? Daniel? Nice. All right. Scott says, who you got in the Super Bowl? What's the Super Bowl? Let's see. I don't see any other questions. And I think that might be it for us, unless there's anything here. I think so. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's all I see. Craziest copywriting insight that I've recently had. Hmm. It's making me think today. Craziest copywriting insight that I've recently had. Hmm. I don't have one, Daniel, and that's disturbing to me. I gotta go find one. Maybe I'm just overblowing the idea of insight. I think that, I went back and looked at some of the stuff they were teaching in 2010, 2011 recently, and it's been interesting to see the flow from there, because that was literally 7 years ago, which is insane. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't had a massive insight. Okay, an insight. I will almost guarantee that no matter what question you have in copywriting, there's already an answer for it or a tool for it out there. That's one insight. Like, if you think you have a really hard problem in copywriting, then you're just not looking for the right tool or the right insight online. It's there. It exists. There isn't something that doesn't exist. And if you can legitimately find a problem that you have as a copywriter that does not exist, or that the solution does not exist for in some shape or form on the internet, then you should make that solution immediately, because I guarantee you're not the only one with that problem. That's a good insight. Let's see. Quick question, read this week's assignment. Since it's a free guide, basically to get people to enroll in their free course, and I'm guessing to enroll in their MLM oil business. Could I frame it as this book is the intro to the free course? I had an aha moment with this, but I'm listening to talking at the same time, and trying to get the question out. I'm having a hard time remembering exactly how I was going to frame it. Okay, well, so it's a big book, and and people don't necessarily read big books, unless they're very interested in that particular topic. My thing would be, instead of saying this book is the intro, I would say this book is the only thing you need right now, but like for beginners, like the best resource for beginners. Now, if you want to learn more, like once you're done with the book, then there's like an advanced course. That's a better frame. You never want to give them the thing that they just outlined as like a piece of the puzzle. You want to give them as an independent unit that they can have a win with, and then give them something extra to have a bigger win with. That's one little insight tactic that in copywriting you never want to do, especially around upsells, which is you'd never want to use an upsell to imply that the thing that they either bought or opted in for was incomplete in some way, because that makes them feel cheated. Don't ever do that. Make sense? Awesome. Cool, cool. All right. I think that's it then. I'll end it here, unless I see friends are typing, but I think that's Edie with her timestamps. Um, and so let's see. Best suggestion. Jesus, Daniel, you're coming out with these tweet one-liners. Best suggestion for becoming a funnel master. Uh, well, so think about funnels from one step up of all the marketing hype that you see right now. Okay, like there's marketing hype around funnels. Cool. Take a step back and look at not only the people marketing the funnel hype and the courses around it, but real funnels in the wild and how they're actually being used. All right, so step back from the marketing and look at how they're actually being used outside of the fact that they're being marketed to you, right? Obviously, funnel people who market funnels are going to be using funnels to market to you. That's just a given. Look at how they're really being used in other businesses, right? And look at the level of complexity that people are using in their funnels for businesses outside of the marketing sphere, and what's working and what's not, right? Based on the research, you can always find out what's working by looking at the ads that have been running longest, the types of things that have been around for a while, like that types of things. Longevity in the internet age is a sign of success. So then back out that way and go, okay, what's working in the real world with these quote unquote funnels? And then realize that at a meta level, a funnel is just a new word to describe the customer journey, right? Getting someone from one level of sophistication and awareness into being a buyer and then a lifetime buyer of your products or services. That's it. Funnel is just a new word to describe that. So then once you realize that, you realize, okay, the marketing hype around how you do that is there, and they're making it easier in some sort of software ways. And at the end of the day, being a quote unquote funnel master is simply being able to understand and then implement a well constructed customer journey. That's it. And to do that, you have to intimately know your customer rather than knowing what software hack or tweak or tactic is going on right now. And also being very, very aware of the actual marketplace and the industry that you're going to operate in rather than the marketing of that industry or something like it. Sound good? Cool. All right. Oh, and extra resource, Edie, Mike Capuzzi for direct mail. Danielle says that that's a resource. I've never even heard of him, but all right. I think that's it, guys. Thank you for a wonderful call. There was a lot of really great questions. I appreciate it. Um, and yeah, I think I answered everything. If you have anything else, post it in the group. And go Patriots. Have a good one.